Today on Better Book Clubs, reading a difficult book with confidence. Probably we've all found ourselves in a situation where we were reading a book that was a little bit too difficult for us and we really weren't sure what to do with it. So in that situation, you have a few choices. You can either give up, you can ask for help, or you can give it a try. So today I want to give you a few strategies for that last choice. Give it a try. The first one is an assignment that I actually give my college students called a difficulty paper. Now, that sounds like an academic assignment, but there's a great way to modify this for yourself as a reader for pleasure. So if you have any kind of a reading journal, or even if you don't, what you can do is some free writing on what it is that's causing you difficulty in the text. In other words, try to pin down why it's difficult. There are several really common reasons for difficulty. One of them is vocabulary. The solution to that is pretty simple, although if you're running into lots of unfamiliar vocabulary words, it's probably easiest to just circle them or mark them down and go back and look them up later rather than looking them up as you read along. Another common reason for difficulty is sentence structure, and again, that has a fairly straightforward way of solving it, which is to just go through and segment the sentences and kind of take them chunk by chunk. But then there are a couple of other things that happen that cause difficulty in a text that may be not so obvious. The big one is expectations. So without even realizing it, we often go into our reading expecting it to do something in particular. And if we're reading in a genre like mystery, for example, we know that the novel is going to do some particular things. It's going to hide key information from us, but not so much information that we couldn't figure it out ourselves. So we know that we're in some kind of puzzle. And what it is we're trying to figure out when we read a mystery is different depending on what kind of a mystery it is. But there's always a puzzle of some kind to be solved, and it is solvable. So there are certain rules that we're reading by. The thing is, when you're reading literature, when you're reading a literary novel that's outside the bounds of a genre like romance or mystery, the whole point is that the writer is somehow breaking rules. So if you can figure out what it is that your expectation is and how it's being undermined or not met, that's a really big first step to getting over the difficulty. And again, that journal, just writing it out, sometimes in the act of writing, we start to figure out not only what's causing the problem, but also what we might be doing to solve it. A great example of a writer undermining expectations is Kate Atkinson in her book Life After Life. We have a certain expectation about how a story is going to move forward, but Atkinson is constantly undermining that by sending us back to the beginning over and over and over again. And once we realize that's what she's up to, even then, it's still a little bit difficult, but at least we've figured out what her kind of plan for the novel is, what she's up to, and it makes it easier to sit back and say, okay, I see this is how this is going to go. Now I can read along and trust that somehow it's going to work out in the end. Another great way of dealing with difficulty in your book club readings is to set up a discussion outside of the time that you get together to discuss. So set up a private Facebook group or set up a group text or a group email in which you can be in touch with each other about your reading as it progresses, rather than waiting until the end of the book to get together and talk about it all. The thing is, if you're having difficulty, chances are other members of your group are having difficulty as well. And if you just set a couple of ground rules about what you can and can't do in these discussions, for example, you can't get too far ahead, you can't spoil the plot for anybody, then you should be able to help each other out through any challenges that you're running across as you read. Don't worry that this is going to put some kind of a damper on your discussion when you finally get together. Chances are it's going to make for a much deeper, richer discussion in the end. These challenges are only going to happen if you and your book club pick challenging books to read. And one of the great reasons to have a book club is to read books together that you might feel a little bit unsure of or intimidated by reading on your own. The only way you're going to run into some of these challenges with your book club is if you're stretching yourselves to try to read some things together that you might feel a little bit unsure of or even intimidated about reading on your own. But that's the beauty of a book club, is it can help you read some things together that you might not take on by yourself. I'm not saying that you have to pick a really difficult, challenging, unusual book every time you read together, but I do suggest that you stretch yourselves a little bit. Take advantage of the opportunity to read something challenging together and work through it together. There's not only a great sense of accomplishment in doing that, it makes you a better reader, and better discussions tend to evolve from more challenging books. I have a few videos already on some great challenging books for you and your book club to try, and I'm always adding more. So keep on reading, and I'll be back soon with another episode of Better Book Clubs.